known about these projects. And part of our job is to help bring in new folks who do things.
So if that could be an emphasis going forward, I think the board would be really pleased.
Please. Just want to follow with that. Thank you for the report that you're doing on the DPEs, but I do want to encourage TriMet to be diligent about those who are certified and how they are certified. I was recently in the news, you do have some companies who a person appears to be, does not operate, and borrowing equipment from another major, which means that they do not own the equipment or anything like that. And that's kind of a little bit shady in my opinion. So I want to make sure and want to encourage that TriMet due diligence in making sure, and contractors, that they're certified and they actually are certified and they actually are doing what they say they're supposed to do. So i.e. I own 51% or 52%, but I'm setting someplace else doing something totally different and know nothing about the business I'm saying I'm operating. So that kind of skews our numbers, and what it actually does is, my request would be write an article on the companies that's doing that, and kind of put them on the list that when they bid the next time, we know, they know, and they can be watched, so we can bring kind of the end of this and then help work towards the certification process and the checking of that for the state.
That's correct. Dr. Beth, one of the reasons why we go out and do site tests is that we're trying to get to the bottom of that. This is a concern, and frankly, it's on our agenda item once a month when we meet with the private contractors, educating them about what are signs of potential DB fraud. Also, going out site checks, checking for lease arrangements. The DB has to solely be able to operate on its own footing, and when those issues occur, to report that back to the state of Oregon. I should note that under this administration, FDA Obama administration, they've really been cracking down, frankly, on fraud, prosecuting this in very rigorous ways. So it's something that we'll continue to keep an eye on.
I had a couple of questions. All about job things, which is really good. The one that the indirect and induced jobs, have you got an econometric model that you're using? Is that what you're doing?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, so
that's based on the amount of construction spending.
Right. Okay. And a good national model. So
it's kind of the state of the art. Most of the NEPA documents, the EIS reports around the country use this particular firm for that calculation.
Good. And then I do wake up thinking about trying this stuff, so I'm trying to make this But did I not see a map that had the workforces by zip code?
Yes. Yes.
I think that is more powerful in many ways than, well, actually, I think this is a good piece that shows the DB contractor. But I think the workforce, where the jobs are being created around the region, is very important. And I think in any presentation that we give, we ought to show that, because I think it's very powerful. If I remember it, there was a lot of folks, for example, in Clackamas County, that were employed as a result of this project. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and so I think that map does a good job, and I just think get that out there whenever you do one of these kinds of reports. The other thing I just commented, I agree with Dr. Bethel, this is good information. And my assumption is the apprentice hours, you've got the by gender, but I assume that the workforce by ethnicity includes the apprentice, is that right? The total?
Not mutually exclusive.
So that's a good representation of both the journey level and the apprentices in the program.
That's correct.
And I guess I just say compliments on the women in the workforce. I think that's a very good number. I tried to do that before, and I think the numbers we were seeing were 4 to 6% on some of the projects we're doing here in the city. So that's some good numbers. I want to commend you on what they're all doing, but again, that's something to actually be proud of.
A lot of contractors and our unions get a lot of the credit for that as they bring in new people through pre-apprentice and apprentice programs. They're very much in tune with trying to improve those numbers as well as their diversity numbers.
Okay, good. All right, anything else? Okay, thank you guys. Appreciate it a lot. Guys and ladies. Guys with non-gender specific.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
In
Safety
color,
update.
too.
Gary, coming up.
A bonus.
Pam Wilson's going to
the camera. Had this presentation before the car crash.
Okay, I'm used to provide you with a safety update, but I think it's important to provide a little bit of background first. And that is, if you recall, TriMet created a task force called the Safety and Security Excellence Task Force. We made several recommendations. One was to make safety a value and not just a priority. There really is a key difference between the two. Principally, priorities change. And if it's a value, then it becomes inherent into your operation, something that doesn't change with time. And that we need to empower our employees to make better decisions related to safety, develop a set of metrics to drive performance, and then to also, whatever safety data that we do have, we need to be able to make better use of that for decision making. So in the past, I've provided an overview of some of our safety efforts, and today what I'd really like to do, rather than go through each one of these, is really focus on three principal ones and the progress that we've made in that area. One is safety culture. That's really a very broad term. It's really a measurement of the temperature of the agency related to safety, our safety training effort, and then lastly, the efforts of the Safety Education Advisory Committee, or our Safety Outreach Program, and principally our pedestrian safety outreach. So when we look at why is safety culture important, why is that climate really important, it really drives a number of things, but what's also important to keep in mind is that safety really is not a program, it's really a process. It's something that becomes integrated into your operation. How you do business, it is a value. Again, it's not a priority that changes with time, but something that becomes inherent in all of the operations. And when we talk about safety climate, we're really talking about employees' perceptions. I mean, what do they believe to be true? What are the attitudes about risk and safety itself? Because what ultimately happens is that then becomes reflected in how they perform as well. And so that's why we want to measure that state of current safety. You know, what is that current temperature? So what we did was we contacted the Washington State University and principally the psychology department. They have quite a bit of experience with other employers engaging the safety climate within organizations. And they were the ones that were principally responsible for conducting this particular study. Although we helped facilitate some of it, they really were the ones that gathered the information and analyzed it. And what we were doing was we're trying to evaluate the employee perception of the safety climate. You know, again, what is that temperature? It then provides a baseline of information, but what it ultimately does is it then establishes a set of metrics that we begin to track so that we can see whether or not the actual temperature is improving over time. So what we did was the survey was given to all employees. It was a voluntary effort. There were obviously many that chose not to participate, so you can see that the response rate was about 16% of the workforce. It really wasn't where we wanted it to be. We were hoping for much higher numbers, but again, it was at least it gave us a good starting point and a sense of the climate. We also distributed the surveys in a variety of ways online for those that chose to do that way. Many chose to participate via paper. And then there was a lot of in-person outreach. We contacted all shifts, so that outreach was not just during the day, just not during the swing shift, but we also went to graveyard shifts as well. That principally was our maintenance staff, both maintenance of way, rail maintenance, and bus maintenance. So what did we measure? Well, there are really a variety of variables that the study was focused on, but and we tabulated this in a variety of ways as well, in the aggregate, and we also tabulated it by individual departments. The reason for doing by individual departments, we want to see where we place perhaps greater emphasis. The only drawback to doing that is that some of those departments are relatively small, so that was a little bit unfair. So I think that, for now, the aggregate measurement was one that we really began to focus on. So what we actually measured was, what was the employee's concern for safety? Did management care? That was really the question. How did we communicate safety? What were the mechanisms? Was it effective? Do they believe that safety training was really effective for them? Were the practices that we have established, were they effective? And then to what degree did they feel that the supervisor influenced their behaviors? And then individually, what was their own personal knowledge and motivation and behavior and attitudes towards safety? So all of these things were measured. And what we found was that there really were several key factors in this. And there were really three of these. First was the perception of safety as a value. The second, safety enforcement by the supervisor, and then that employee-supervisor communication. And I want to give you a little bit of information regarding each one of these. First of all, that the perception of safety as a value measures the extent management places safety as a high priority. I'm using the word priority here, emphasis. And then it also measures the extent to which there's an open exchange of information regarding safety training, the extent to which policies and procedures are perceived to be effective in preventing mishaps. I don't use the word accidents, I use the word mishap. Because an accident suggests that there was some event that was beyond the control. But every situation really is controllable if we really begin to look at for root causes of the event. What the results show is that there really is a great deal of need for improvement. And employees perceive that there was a high level of safety risk. And that's not really too surprising given the work environment that they operate in. So they operate in city streets every day, and it becomes difficult to control the behaviors of others. But on the other hand, they also suggested that there was a lack of resources to help them control that risk. They also believed there was a need for better communication, more frequent training, and better systems to control those risks. So they wanted to see better control measures in place, whether those are policies and procedures or other mechanisms. They also believed that there was actually a greater risk on customer safety rather than their own personal safety. Again, I want to emphasize that this is their perception. Related to supervisor enforcement, employees perceived inconsistency in the enforcement, and they tend to be, supervisors tend to be more reactive rather than proactive, and waiting until an incident actually occurs before they intervene and say, oh, we better start doing this. Regarding employee communication, there's a perception that there's a need for better communication. I don't think this is a surprise. If you recall, there was an outreach earlier this year where we measured the various communication mechanisms within TriMet, and that also showed the need for better communication. But what this also suggests is that there's a need for better safety guidance on the part of supervisors. Now, on the positive side, employees reported a moderately high level of safety knowledge in terms of safety procedures. They also indicated a very high level of safety motivation. So there's a little bit of a contradiction here. So they're suggesting that I'm very motivated to do this, but yet they feel like there's a lack of enforcement in the safety policies and procedures. So what does the study actually recommend? So what did WSU recommend? First of all, they said we should be tracking safety behaviors. We need to do that. And there's a concept called behavioral-based safety, in which that's actually what happens, is that we conduct a series of job site observations, evaluate those observations, and whether they're negative observations, in other words, there's negative behaviors or positive behaviors. But the emphasis really needs to be on that positive behavior. So we need to focus on those, on the positive, not just the negative behaviors. Remember, we tend to be reactive, but we also need to be reinforcing those positive behaviors. There's also contradiction priorities. So we say that safety is a value, but on the other hand, we do other things and place emphasis on this. So I'm not saying those aren't important. And I think one of the greatest conflicts is schedules. So there's a lot of pressure to maintain a particular schedule. And we say, yes, maintain the schedule, do it safely, but yet maintain the schedule, and so some feel that maybe I need to rush to do that. So we need to really dig down and see where is that conflict, what are the types of conflicts, and we need to remove those disincentives. As I mentioned earlier, also we need to increase the personal interactions between the supervisor and the employee. Within maintenance, we have better opportunity for that interaction. On the transportation side, it becomes a bit of a challenge. How do we do that? Because that workplace keeps moving. It's not a fixed workplace. It's all us who are trained. We also need to understand the competing priorities, as I mentioned about those, and message clearly that safety is truly a value, not just with the employees, but every level of the organization, whether it's the leadership team, the managers and directors, supervisors, and the frontline employees. And then to use this study as our starting point to develop strategies. So related to that, we've identified 4 key steps, with the 5th one being that we would conduct this safety study on an annual basis so as to gauge whether or not we're making any type of improvement. So the first one, building on the safety management system, we continue to do that. In particular, what we're doing is I'm realigning the safety department to reflect that safety management system so that we begin to really focus on those particular efforts. If you recall, there are really 4 distinct boxes, but the realignment is principally in ensuring that the safety procedures and policies that are in place are effective, and then also looking at our safety risks throughout the whole organization to ensure that we have the necessary control measures in place as well. And one of the other emphases that we're placing is on training itself and for the driving of safety performance. And I've identified a safety training program that we're going to launch next year, early 2013. This program is geared towards every level of the organization, including the leadership team, so that the leadership team understands what are those safety drivers and then what is their role within that safety management system itself. We'll also do this for each of the directors and managers and for the supervisors themselves. I'd also like to give you an outline of what we're doing in the other training areas, principally for our bus operators. If you recall, last year we launched a program to certify our bus operators. That program was emphasizing a skill set called scanning so that they could take in better information and make their decisions based upon that information. This year, we're changing that slightly. What we're now saying is that we're going to give you the skill set to recognize what those hazards actually mean, what those impacts might be, so that you can make better decisions. And so it's driving, it's the identification of driving hazards, and then how to manage those driving risks. In addition to the hazard recognition, there are two primary focus within that skill set, and that is on cyclist awareness and also pedestrian safety. Because we're coming into a time period where it's dark and those can become particular problems. The other finding of the safety study, the safety climate study, was the need for supervisors promoting safety. And so now we're also going to be building on the skill sets that we previously gave to the supervisors earlier this year regarding safety. And we're focusing on the recognition of hazardous conditions in acts and how to mitigate them before they result in injury or other mishaps. What are the causation factors for that resulting mishap? And then if there is a mishap, what is their involvement to investigate it so that there isn't a reoccurrence? So that is being developed now. We hope to launch this in the February-March timeframe of next year. In addition to those measures, we're also continuing to develop the safety committees themselves, to give them the skill sets to make better decisions regarding safety, because this is really a key element to our safety program, soliciting employee feedback. We're using the safety committees for that feedback mechanism. And then lastly, ensuring that we do this on an annual basis. Now what I'd like to do is have Pam describe our effort regarding our safety outreach.
Okay, great, thanks, Ed. Last week on Monday, November 5th, we kicked off our third annual Be Seen, Be Safe campaign. As many of you know, the primary objective of that campaign is to increase public awareness of the need to be visible during, the daylight savings time as it goes away. Be visible if you're walking or riding your bike. Secondary objective that we want to get the message out to drivers to be especially alert and see everyone at this time of year. And this year's promotional mix generated considerable reach and frequency. We're still kind of in the middle of it, so I'll kind of go through some highlights of how we're working to get the word out. KGW is running TV spots right now. They go on for another week, and then we'll have another 2-week flight in early January. And we're going to show you the spots today, but we've got some technical difficulties, so with speakers and so forth. So afterwards, we're going to send you, we've got all the news coverage, and the spots are all linked on our BC landing page. So we'll send you afterwards that link so you can kind of get a better visual idea of what folks are seeing out there. And KGW, we're running spots on KGW. They're a great partner. They've given us considerable bonus weight. Bonus weight is free TV time, free service. They, for example, they produced our pretty simple TV spot at no cost, which is great. And Metro's been another really good partner. They gave us money to actually underwrite the cost of some of the spots, so they've been a major partner with this, as well as Drive Less, Save More campaign. And what you've seen today, community news, we have that nice insert in the most of the community news, the major community news publications. Steve, your former worker Kevin did a great job getting that out. They're, as always, great to work with. And so that people saw all over the region. We have extras that we're going to go out to the Washington County libraries, so we'll even have more information out. Print ads, we ran print ads in The Observer, Scanner, El Hispanic, Asian Reporter, PSU Vanguard, and some other publications. We also have a new market, Portland Family. We had an article in this, a full page ad in the column in Portland Family to kind of get some other demographics of pedestrians. Our mix also included community newsletters. I don't know, this meeting, Steve, Craig, you were talking about sending out, using more of those free community newsletters. We expanded our list. I think we sent like 35 articles. I don't know all the results, but other than Beaverton, I do know that they did a great job, put everything we sent into the Beaverton City newsletter. So, that's like an easy kind of no-brainer kind of thing we can do. Social media, we tweeted a lot, posted a lot. So did our many partners. When we do a campaign like this, we send what we call electronic partner kit. Make it easy for folks to send out information, and we know that our partners like BTA and Metro, they've done a great job of helping us spread the word out like that. For writer engagement and kind of our viral marketing piece of this campaign, we have a Bright Ideas contest where we ask people, send us your favorite way of how you're be seen, and then we'll be posting those later this week. And then the photos that get the most votes, they're going to win the prize. The prizes are 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, but TriMet pass. So that kind of helps spread the word with viral marketing, and also kind of start setting up that social norm of this is the desired behavior, wearing reflective wear, having lights on, and so forth when you're out and about. And for earned media, we did really well with earned media this year. It was covered by KGW, Coin, and Channel 2. And all the coverage was really very positive, very friendly, very, I think, user-friendly. It really had great consumer news in it. In particular, KGW in the morning between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. They had that Drew Carney remote. Well, they were out with us very early last Monday, November 5th. And that was really a fun way to get the word out, the point out. So I do want you, when you see that, to take a look at those segments. They were really fun. And it was really, a very friendly segments. And according to Drive Less, Save More is one of our partners, and they use something, a software called PR Track, to kind of quantify what our earned media is valued. And they said it was all our earned media for this, as far as TV goes, is worth like $49,000. But really, most importantly, it really helps get the word out far and wide about how to be safe. And then street teams at 20 locations. Literally, we took safety to the streets this year. In the past, we've had a big event at Pioneer Square. Well, this year, right before the elections, we didn't think that was going to work very well, so we redesigned the campaign differently. And we had a great response. We had 71 community volunteers at 20 locations that would go out between 5 and 7 a.m. Last Monday to hand out safety prompts and safety blinkies. And that represents, like, those 71 volunteers came from 18, 19 organizations. So some of these partners, a lot of them came from our safety education advisory task force, but not all of them. We had AAA, ETA, Clackamas, Safe Communities, the City of Gresham had volunteers, Gresham TMA, Peabody Metro, Elders in Action was out there, some volunteers, Fulton Valley Fire and Rescue were out there, ODOT Region 1, Beaverton School District's Transportation Office, Washington County Sheriff's, and the Washington County Land Use and Development staff. They get the big prize. They recruited 22 volunteers. I think most of them were from that department. At least all of them were from Washington County employees. So that we thought was a really great partnership. So kind of in closing, that's kind of the who, what, when, where of it all. I think this year proved with all the street teams that really by working together, all of us, we can leverage resources and really do a lot more together and do a better job of getting the word out when we have so many partners.
Okay, so one of the influences on our safety program will be MAP 21. And right now, we really don't know what that means for us. However, what I found to be very, very interesting is that we had started on the effort of launching our safety management system well in advance of MAP 21. One of the efforts coming out of Management 21 is that the DOT is changing their emphasis of how they approach safety and are actually embracing that concept of safety management systems. What does that really mean for us right now? I don't know yet. So that's yet to come. So in summary, We really, I think, have made progress in a number of areas. We're continuing to build on that safety training. We're going to launch a major effort next year for not only bus operators, but supervisors, directors, managers, and the leadership team. We're continuing to build on that safety outreach, as you can see, but we still have a lot of work to do, and this is not a short-term effort. This is a very, very long-range effort that'll take quite a bit of work. So if anyone has questions, I would be pleased to answer those.
Questions, board? I think you've done a good job. Nothing here. Good work, thank you. Safety, culture, and support, so thank you for what you're doing.
If you'd like to read the report, I'm free. I can send it to you. It's about 120 pages.
I think we want to see the videos.
Like 30 seconds.
Especially the Drew
15
Carter.
seconds.
Craig.
No reading, too much.
There we go. I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, no reading, just watch.
There we go. There we go. Okay. Good. Well, let's see, looking at the agenda, I think we've concluded our regular agenda. We have. Okay. So I think now we want to end this session and go into an executive session. Right. Want to redo the reading of the, okay, so the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District, Oregon, TriMet will hold an executive session following the board meeting. Executive session will be held pursuant to ORS 192-660 sub 2 sub D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by TriMet to carry on labor negotiations. This executive session is closed to the public, and representatives of the news media shall not be allowed to attend this session pursuant to ORS 192-660 sub 4. Okay, so we'll wait for the room to be cleared of those not involved. You can take a quick break. I think it'll probably take a while to get everything out.